You are tuned in to Fitness and Consciousness. I'm Ryan Hadley. Before I get going, most people just listen to the show. I do want to let people know that we are on YouTube. It's the Fitness and Consciousness YouTube channel. And if you have any trouble finding it, you can also find Fitness and Consciousness Facebook page. And you can find my Instagram at Hadley Fitness, Hadley Fitness. And I have links on my bio. It'll say Linktree. You just click that, and then you can see the list of shows. So you can find me and all the guests through each of those ways. Today's show, I'm going to be covering several subjects. I think I'll call it Auld Lang Syne, after the song. And it means days gone by, or literally old long since. And we have Thanksgiving in America coming up here in just a few days. Today is Monday, November 18th. It's about 10 o'clock at night for me. I know people listen to the show even months and months and months after it's already happened, but it's not a time-sensitive thing. So whatever time you're listening in, it's perfectly fine. In this time getting close to Thanksgiving, the show's listened to all over the world. But America seems to be known about, and our politics seem to be spread out. The impact, and we have a thing where people are tearing down statues of Christopher Columbus, and I don't know that that's a bad thing. What we're taught in school is different than what we learn as an adult. In school, it's basically like Christopher Columbus came here 1492 and, made friends with the Indians, and we're taught that he thought he was in India. But I don't know that that's really true. And that he discovered America, but then we learn later on, well, there was Vikings here, and perhaps there was even Native Americans that had already been to France and back by the time Columbus even got here. So who knows what happened all the way back then, and maybe tearing down the Columbus statues and recognizing the indigenous people, culture instead is not a bad thing. I wonder, what would our world be like also if that didn't happen? Because I'm listening to this audiobook by Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor, Nazi Holocaust survivor. And the what's the book called? Man's Search for Meaning, or something like that. And so it talks about the atrocities that the Nazis were doing to the Jews, but it's more about finding meaning even though there's suffering. And so what country led the fight to end the Holocaust? I'm not a World War II expert, but I'm pretty sure that was America leading that fight. So what happened to the Native Americans? Yes, it was absolutely horrible. But what if that had to happen to end the Holocaust? Because it's complicated. I don't have these exact facts to I'm not trying to make a case for this theory. I'm not making a case for it at all. My question is, like, what if sometimes these bad things have to happen for other good things to happen? Or, it's kind of strange what we can get. And like, if you had the choice, you can either kill 50 people or you can kill 100 people. Well, you don't want to kill anybody, but you have to pick. There's the 50 or there's the 100. Or would you kill me? Would you torture me? Well, I imagine most of you are probably saying, no, I wouldn't. Well, what if you were one of the capo, one of the guards in the concentration camps, and the capo were the other Jews? It'd be another Jew. Because they were, from what I'm understanding, even worse than the Nazis. So they would be more cruel to their friends, or what should be their friends, than the Nazis. Because if they were not cruel, then they might not get to see their family again. They probably won't anyway. But if they were cruel enough, then they might. Probably not, but maybe. But if they're not cruel enough, then no. So would you kill me to have a better shot at your kids living? Okay, how could I blame you if you did? Or would you torture me? Or when you're getting used to seeing these atrocities daily, or where seeing one of your dead friend being dragged by doesn't even cause you to pause when you're taking in your soup ration. That's what I'm reading about from Viktor Frankl. And he said that, the best of them didn't make it. So a lot of times to make it, you might have had to do something cruel that you would never consider in another situation. This book, it's really blowing my mind. And I remember when I was in high school, some friends of mine, we went to see, I don't remember his name, but I remember going to the library in Shelbyville, Indiana, and I was maybe 15 at the time, and I just went with friends. It's not like something my mom made me go to or anything like that. And we saw this Holocaust survivor speak. And I don't remember a lot about it, really. I remember his number. I remember him showing the number on his arm. I don't really remember anything else he said. 25 years ago, probably. But I remember going to see him. And then it's like listening to this book, Viktor Frankl, and I got a couple of his books. I have more coming from the library. I'm going to really dig into him. He was a psychologist, neurologist, and it talks about how he was, in their sleeping quarters. They were. This show's not going to be all like doom and gloom, Nazi killing, horrible stuff. I'm going to get into some brighter stuff later, but I'm just trying to I don't know. If you heard the show before, I talk about all kinds of stuff, but anyways, so when they would be asleep, they're all crowded. They're laying on their sides, and their arm was in some jacked up position. And his buddy was having a nightmare. So they're in Auschwitz. They're in a Nazi concentration camp. And his buddy is having a nightmare. And he started to wake his friend up. And then he didn't. Because whatever nightmare he was having couldn't be worse than the nightmare that they were living when they were awake. So he let him have the nightmare when he was asleep. I mean, imagine like what humans can do to each other. It's insane. And so these are otherwise normal people put in these extreme positions, extreme situations. So would you torture somebody? No. Well, yeah, actually I would. If if it means I can maybe see my kids in a couple weeks, probably not, but maybe. And I can all I have to do is like be really cruel to you. Well, what do you do? And yeah, I was listening to him. It's not his voice. It's somebody else is reading the book, but it's just crazy. So if you looked like you were too old, they would just like wag their finger and then you go die. They go kill you. So some advice that he got was you have to shave really good your whole body every day, even if that means with a piece of broken glass. You'll take that piece of broken glass, and it's actually going to be good because it will leave your cheeks red. It'll give you like this rosy complexion, and you'll look younger. So then maybe you'll live that through that day. Maybe not. Probably not the next week, but maybe. So you'll shave your whole body, head to toe, with broken glass. Let's move on. So I wanted to name this show Auld Lang Syne, and so days gone by, or literally old long since. And I'm going to read it. There's something about our. Well, I'll get into that in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and read. This is the modern English translation. There's some words from the Irish that I don't want to just mess them up, and so modern English translation of Auld Lang Syne. Should old acquaintances be forgotten and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintances be forgotten and days of long ago? For times gone by, my dear, for times gone by, we will take a cup of kindness yet, for times gone by. We too have run about the hillsides and pulled the daisies fine, but we have wandered many a weary foot, for times gone by. We too have paddled, waded in the stream, from noon until dinner time, but seas between us broad have roared since times gone by. And there is a hand, my trusty friend, and give us a hand of yours, and we will take a goodwill drink of ale for times gone by. And surely you will pay for your pint, and surely I will pay for mine, and we will take a cup of kindness yet for times gone by. So this song is often sang in, well, America, Europe. I know we have listeners in India and Canada, and I'm not sure how popular that song is in other places, but the way I take it is, it says it, should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind. And so like, what is it about like these old times? Like a lot of times we look back, and when I was driving a cab, I mean, if I didn't drive a cab for 7 years, I don't know if I'd even be doing a podcast. It's kind of funny how things work, but I learned from driving a cab that people want to tell their story. I mean, I met and got to know people really well. My regular customers, I'm taking them to their cancer treatments. I'm taking them to church. I'm driving blind people to wherever they needed to go. And you get to know these people, and people want to tell their story. And our stories start when we're young, obviously. But what is it about the high school friends? And I have some high school friends that I've somewhat recently got reacquainted with, and it's really cool. There's just the people that you had those times with, and maybe you had you're partying back in those days, and now you don't, or um, and now you have kids, and your kids are the age that you were when you were hanging out before, and it's it's just really neat. There's this a sense of home, a sense of home about that. So even though we might live in different towns now, we get together and we're at home. Uh, and like a friend of mine, Blake, I hadn't seen him in like a really long time. I don't know if it was like almost 20 years. And another friend of ours, her mom died, and we were both went to her funeral. And so we got kind of like rehooked up there. And then he's a really good martial arts teacher, really good. And so I started training with him again. I just trained with him again yesterday, or Saturday, I guess it was. But um, so there's just something cool about hanging out with old buddies, and you're training and martial arts and talking about old times and what you're doing now. Um, and then, like the newer people that I've met, and there's, um, I guess not a lot of, I guess I can maybe be kind of hard to get to know. Like I'm not real social. Um, so I don't really feel like real comfortable at parties and that kind of stuff. And like I think about going to parties or get invited to them, um, and I kind of like wonder if do they really want me there, and or I was invited to like sweat lodges, and then I wonder, it's like, I really don't know them very well. Do they really want me there? And I think they really do, but uh, it can be kind of more difficult for me at first to start to meet new people that are into what I'm into, because I'm not really good at like small talk stuff. I want to, if I'm going to talk to somebody, it's not like, hey, how are you? Fine. Oh wow, weather nice, huh? Yeah, it rained yesterday. What do you think it's going to be like tomorrow? Who I don't care about that. It's like when I talk to people, it's like, oh, how are you doing? What do you mean fine? I mean, like, how are you doing? What's going on? Like, actually tell me what you have going on. I don't want to just hear fine. That's not an answer. It's like the polite answer that most people expect when you just walk by them at the store or something. How you doing? Oh, fine, great, good to see you. But anyway, I have like some friends, like my buddy Sam. Like, he's the guy that really means it. He calls, and or I call him, and it's like, hey, what's going on? And it's not like, oh, nothing. What do you have going on? Oh, nothing. No, it's like, here, this is going to be an hour-long conversation, or it could be a couple. It could be a long time. Like, yeah, here's what's going on. And so finding people that are really want to know and want to tell, and have that kind of match up. Like, you don't have to have all the answers for them that they're looking for, but a lot of people, they need somebody to listen to them, and we want to be listened to also. So can you just go on a 15-20 minute rant, and your friend just listens and nods and is really listening, and then they go on a 15-minute rant and you're just listening? And so it's there's something about maybe about growing up with people and like learning about them like through school, because we're with them so much, and then maybe it's more difficult later because we're not just like stuck in these walls with um, such easy access. So um, So I guess if, kind of the point is, if you're like wanting to get a hold of somebody from a long time ago, then send them a message. You might be surprised. Or if you're not sure if the people that invited you really want you to be there, go give it a try. See what it's like, and that's how it begins. But um, anyways, on that, so I'm going to read another song. It's like Auld Lang Syne. I guess it started originally in 1588, and then it was redone in 1788 by Robert Burns into the version I just read, except it was translated. So this will all kind of go together. But this is a song, I used to not like this song. I used to think the message of it was, I just didn't think it was moral, or, yeah, I thought there were some moral issues with this song. Because I have like this loyalty thing. I've never cheated on a girlfriend, and if I'm with somebody, I'm not looking for someone else. And if there's like the one, then you like figure it out. But and I'll make more sense of this in a minute. But this song is called "Love the One You're With." It's by Stephen Stills. It's not 400 years old. It's only like 50 years old. And I used to not like it, and then I started to hear it differently, and I'll get into that when I finish it. So if you're down and confused and you don't remember who you're talking to, concentration slip away because your baby is so far away. Well, there's a rose in a fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove. And if you can't be with the one you love, honey, love the one you're with. Don't be angry. Don't be sad. Don't sit crying over good times you've had. There's a girl right next to you, and she's just waiting for something to do. Well, there's a rose in a fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove. And if you can't be with the one you love, honey, love the one you're with. Turn your heartache right into joy, 'cause she's a girl and you're a boy. Get it together. Come on, make it nice. You ain't gonna need any more advice. Well, there's a rose in a fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove. And if you can't be with the one you love, honey, love the one you're with. Now, I've heard that maybe when he was writing it, it was the 60s and it's free love. So maybe it's just like your girlfriend, she's just like at home, like 20 minutes away, and there's like some other chick right by you. So you just go that way. But that's not how I read it now. So like the Auld Lang Syne, the time's long past. So when we're with someone and they seem to be the right person for that time, and then that time ends, or they don't want to try anymore, then you can, easier said than done, and it takes the right person. Like, love the one you're with. So if you're with someone new, then you're better off just going all in with her, and don't try to don't mess that up chasing the past. And so it turned in from a song that I thought was kind of appalling to it's kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. I at least see it this other way, because that new person, if you give them a chance, you might realize why it's all being put together this way. Like we co-create our reality, and sometimes whatever is the other co-creating with us sometimes seems to know more than we know. And a lot of times it doesn't make sense until we look back. So we're with this new person, and then we look back and we're like, oh, okay, I was with her to get those lessons and learn, and now I'm better, and I know now I know this one. So I was, for like one example was, I had a girlfriend. She was a yoga teacher, and I was usually working during her classes, and we went to like workshops and yoga workshops together. And but she was always kind of like upset that I wasn't going to her classes. And I was like, well, I'm working. I have regulars that I have to be picking up, and but I could have went. And in my mind, I was thinking, well, why don't we just have this practice together? I mean, I've done a fair amount of yoga myself, and let's do some partner yoga stuff together. Let's just have our own world. Let's just, why can't you do that when we get home? Let's just have this practice. But she wanted me to go to her classes. And so when I kind of started seeing someone else, happened to be a yoga teacher also, I made sure I was going to her classes. And she was really a good teacher. And so I did really like her classes. And now I don't know what's going on. If we're going to be, we were more than friends at one point, and then just friends, and maybe we'll be more than friends again. I think that's how I've described her on each show that I brought her up. So we'll see what happens. So I take those lessons like, oh, go to those classes. That's actually, it means something. And, other little things that we can learn from these past relationships that we can bring into the first one, these little behavioral things. And I think these, relationships, like the good ones. So that relationship, the other relationship ended on a good note, or there were no hard feelings, I guess you could say. And then my last serious girlfriend and I, we ended on good terms also. And, I'll take those lessons into whatever's next. And so like the love your one you're with thing, to me now doesn't mean just like whoever happens to be around at the moment, but you really want someone else. It means, we kind of like carry that past with us. So I can look back at those past ones and be like, yeah, that was good. And now it's done, but it's still, I still carry that history. And so that will benefit me in the future with whoever's next. Or maybe that's not the best way to put that. I was also wanting to kind of segue that into this dream that I had. And, so with these relationships, we can kind of, I overheard somebody, this couple, I'm pretty sure they were a couple, at this Turkish restaurant I stopped at today. And they were talking about like I don't know if it was their friend or their son or somebody, but he was planning on marrying this woman, and they weren't getting along before. And the man is like, he's like, well, if they weren't getting along before, they're not going to be getting along later. And these are old. They were older than me. They probably had at least 10 years on me. I'm 39, so they were probably around in their 50s or so. And the woman's agreeing that if they weren't getting along before, they're not going to be getting along later. So there's this saying, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. And it's from Kenny Rogers' song, The Gambler. And that was making a lot of sense to me. I happened to post it on Instagram and Facebook, just that phrase. And then like the next day it popped up in my Facebook memory that I had did that same saying almost a year ago, but I didn't realize that. Maybe it was like a couple years ago even. Whatever it was. It was pretty much that exact date a year or two ago. Uh, Interesting how these lessons keep coming back and get deeper and get deeper and deeper. Um, so my dad died in 2005, and he's in my dreams pretty often. I had a dream a couple nights ago. We were watching, my dad and I were watching some fights, like UFC fights. And this guy put his hand down and stuck his chin out, like taunting the other fighter. And immediately, the other guy throws the punch and knocks him out. And it's like, be careful what you ask for. Because he was like literally asking the guy to hit him. You know, he was probably thinking that he was going to be able to move out of the way or whatever, but he stuck his chin out, his hands down, and he got knocked out for it, which was exactly what he was asking for. So tying that into the other relationships is another things I was talking about is like the guy at the restaurant was saying, if they weren't getting along before, they weren't getting along, they're not going to get along later. And this is, maybe there is hope for people to kind of like figure stuff out. But I've had like relationships. It's been a long time. There's a lot of like arguing, just always arguing. And of course, in my mind, it was all because of her, and in her mind, it was all because of me. And maybe it's like my early 20s. It's like, man. And once that ended, it's like I couldn't. I was like, next woman that I'm with, she's gonna have to be pretty much perfect, because I don't want to have this yelling at each other. It's like it's crazy. And so none of the other relationships I've been in since were like that. I have not been in a relationship where we like yell at each other since then. I mean, yeah, there might be like some arguing but nothing like we're just like yelling, cussing at each other. It's crazy. You don't have to do that. And there could be a lot of variables for that, but so it's like you got to know when to hold, know when to fold, know when to walk away, and know when to run. So sometimes it's just time to move on, and then maybe you have the next one, like the song goes, and love the one you're with. There could be someone else right next to you that is just waiting for something to do, and you're stuck trying to make something work that doesn't work. That brings me into sensitivity. So, I started off talking about like the Columbus statues being taken down, and people are becoming, I think, more sensitive to whether it's like indigenous cultures or people that are like, I guess you could say like women's issues or gay rights and this kind of stuff. It seems to be more prevalent, that more people are becoming more sensitive and aware of like, okay, well, if that person's gay, that's fine. It's not a big deal. What it doesn't have to be. You don't have to like stone them to death, or in some countries they still do that. That's crazy. But so our sensitivity is getting better, and here in the U.S., something that was a couple hundred years ago, like slavery, this horrible thing to do to other humans. And now Africans are moving here for a better life. And, what all had to happen for somebody from Africa to say, like, oh, I'm going to move to America because it's better. Like, it's a safer place for my family. I have more opportunities. And of course, there's still problems, but better than where they come from in those ways. And so some people are like kind of like anti-border, like, oh, we should just get rid of borders, and like that's going to be like some kind of solution to peace. But if you're in Mexico, and we have a fair amount of listeners in Mexico or Africa, or people come here from all over the world, and I think it's great. But if there wasn't a border, where would you go? Where do the refugees go if there's no border? We have to have a border so they can cross it and be free. So it doesn't make any sense in my mind to think, oh, we should just get rid of the borders and then like this is some kind of solution to our problems in the world. There has to be a border so they can cross it, because they want to get the hell away from wherever they're coming from. They risk their life. The stuff that people from Mexico come in here, and they'll send young girls with the Plan B pill, because they know that 13-year-old girl, she could get raped. She is going to get raped, however many times it takes to get across the border. It doesn't have to be that way. I don't think it has to be that way. But that stuff is happening. And us just opening the borders isn't a solution to that. We need to have a better, I don't know what the solution is, but it's not that, because the people that are doing that are who they're wanting to get away from. But they have to endure that, or they believe they have to endure that to get here. It's crazy. I don't know what the solution is. So I think, I live in the middle of, I've never been to Mexico. I live in the middle of Indiana, which is in the middle of the country pretty much. And I think it should be both easier to come here and it should be harder. And the situation is really complicated on the border. You hear like the border guards and what it's like. So I think I think people that are kind of like anti-border, I think their heart's in the right place, but they're not thinking it through all the way. Because if there's not a border, what are they going to cross? And not everybody that comes here is just wanting a better life. Some people are coming here and they're making life miserable for a lot of people. They're gang members, and there's murders, and there's all kinds of horrible things going on. So, I mean, my mom came here from Germany. So I have no problem with people coming here from anywhere in the world. I think it should be easier, and I think it should be harder. Yeah, there has to be the borders. So the sensitivity, we in a way need to be a lot more sensitive to what it's like to be other people. And I think we also need to be less sensitive in our reactions. So people need to be more sensitive and they need to be less sensitive. So if somebody can just like say some words to you and it just throws you into a fury, frustration, and then what good is that doing? So people have to, I think, learn how to be more accepting in that way also. So we have to be more sensitive, see what it's like to be someone else, and not give them a hard time. And we need to be less sensitive in our reactions. I think we need to give people the benefit of the doubt more often, and not think that we're somebody that's morally above. Like, and that's what I see a lot of. Like, the people are like morally outraged at just silliness. Because a friend of mine, he did something. He was collecting acorns. He collected like 60 pounds of acorns, and he's going to make them into flour. And he like posted on Facebook, and he's like, somebody asked him a question. He's like, well, the Native Americans would gather the acorns for the winter, and they would make it into flour, and they would make all kinds of stuff with it. And then somebody comments, and he's giving him a hard time about saying Native Americans. And it's like, this guy is very tuned in to the Native American culture, and maybe saying indigenous culture is better. Maybe indigenous culture is more sensitive, more correct, more whatever. But I know for sure that him saying Native American was in no way any kind of, had no ill will behind it at all. He was trying to learn their ways. He's trying to learn what they were doing and preserve it and teach it. And so sometimes we'll say stuff and somebody else can be, oh, they're offended. And I'm so offended, and I'm more offended. And since I'm offended, I'm morally superior to you, and I'm going to preach to you because I'm offended and morally superior. And it's just silly. There was a time I was working at this place in Indianapolis at this warehouse, and I was probably about 20 years old. And I was working on the dock of this place. And, it's like probably mostly like black guys down there. And if you think saying black is not sensitive, saying African American, not all black people want to be called African American either. I've talked to older black people, and they said that they actually prefer American Negro. And this wasn't that long ago. She was, I think it was more than one woman when I was driving a cab, and somehow got on the conversation of what they prefer to be called. And they could tell by the way I was talking that I was genuinely curious, and I didn't have any kind of like racism or anything like that. And they said they prefer to be called American Negro. And I was like, what if I said that though? I was like, that wouldn't sound right if I said that though, would it? And she said, well, it depends who you would say it to. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But anyways, just to keep it simple, black guys working on the dock. And one of them, I got to be pretty good buddies with. I mean, we would always like kind of like joke around with each other and kind of give each other a hard time just out of fun. We were always just kind of messing around with each other and, like threatening each other, but just to be funny. It was never serious, but we would just talk smack to each other, and it was all in good fun. And one time I said something, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said boy. And he got really mad, like seriously mad. And I had no idea what happened. I didn't know what I said. So I was probably like, I might have said like, oh, I'll whoop you, boy, or something like that, which is something he might have said to me 50 times. And we might, we were always joking back and forth like that. So to me, I wasn't saying anything crazy, or I wasn't saying anything out of the ordinary from what we always had this back and forth. But I said something like, maybe I said like, I'll whoop you, boy, or something like that. He got seriously mad and like walked away, and I'm like, what what happened? I don't have any idea what happened. And then so our another buddy of mine down there, a white guy, Brian, he came up to me and he's like, "Do you know what that means?" And I was like, "No, I have no idea what happened. Why is he mad?" And so he told me um, that the slave owners would call black people boy. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I had no idea. That kind of thought didn't even cross my mind. I wasn't thinking anything racial at all. I was just joking around like we always joke around. But I said something that struck a nerve. Um, and then so when I went up to him and told him, I was like, "Oh, I had no idea that that's what it meant." He knew that I didn't know what it meant. We were fine. Nothing. He let it go. But I was like, "Yeah, I didn't know what that meant." And he said, "Oh, I know." And I was like, "Brian told me what it meant." But so uh, the point being, like, when if somebody says something, like maybe like give them the benefit of the doubt. They might not know because their intentions are not what it sounds like to you. So there's all this virtue signaling, I think, is the common thing that it's called now, where like, the millennials, whatever you want to call, are just like more and more offended about everything that there is. And like, okay, should we be more sensitive? Yes. Should we be less sensitive? Yes. Learn how to like make words not bother you so bad, but also learn how to uh, speak and say what you think and understand what things mean from someone else's perspective. Going to move on here. I have The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran, and I wanted to read a couple of things. So I started off talking about, like, Nazi stuff and the capo. Those were the Jews that were guarding the other Jews, and they were more cruel than the Nazis. Um, and getting back to, would you torture me? Most of you probably say no. But what if it meant the difference between seeing your daughter again? Maybe you would almost certainly change your mind. Put in that real situation. So this is Kahlil Gibran from The Prophet, and this is on good and evil. And one of the elders of the city said, "Speak to us of good and evil." And he answered, "Of the good in you I can speak, but not of the evil. For what is evil but good tortured by its own hunger and thirst?" I'm going to repeat that. For what is evil but good tortured by its own hunger and thirst? This is written before the Holocaust. But this is what it was: hunger, thirst. Anyways, for what is evil but good tortured by its own hunger and thirst? Verily, when good is hungry, it seeks food even in dark caves, and when it thirsts, it drinks even of dead waters. You are good when you are one with yourself. Yet when you are not one with yourself, you are not evil. For a divided house is not a den of thieves, it is only a divided house. And a ship without rudder may wander aimlessly among perilous isles, yet sink not to the bottom. You are good when you strive to give of yourself, yet you are not evil when you seek gain for yourself. For when you strive for gain, you are but a root that clings to the earth and sucks at her breast. Surely the fruit cannot say to the root, "Be like me, ripe and full and ever giving of your abundance." For to the fruit giving is a need, as receiving is a need to the root. You are good when you are good when you are fully awake in your speech. Yet you are not evil when you sleep while your tongue staggers without purpose. And even stumbling speech may strengthen a weak tongue. You are good when you walk to your goal firmly and with bold steps, yet you are not evil when you go thither limping. Even those who limp go not backward, but you who are strong and swift, see that you do not limp before the lame, deeming it kindness. You are good in countless ways, and you are not evil when you are not good. You are only loitering and sluggard. Pity that the stags cannot teach swiftness to the turtles. In your longing for your giant self lies your goodness, and that longing is in all of you. But in some of you that longing is a torrent rushing with might to the sea, carrying the secrets of the hillsides and the songs of the forest. And in others it is a flat stream that loses itself in angles and bends and lingers before it reaches the shore. But let not him who longs much say to him who longs little, wherefore are you slow in halting? For the truly good ask not the naked, where is your garment, nor the houseless, what has befallen your house. This is something else from the prophet. Then said a teacher, speak to us of teaching. And he said, no man can reveal to you aught but that which already lies half asleep in the dawning of your knowledge. The teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple among his followers gives not of his wisdom, but rather of his faith and his lovingness. If he is indeed wise, he does not bid you enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your own mind. The astronomer may speak to you of his understanding of space, but he cannot give you his understanding. The musician may sing to you of the rhythm which is in all space, but he cannot give you the ear which arrests the rhythm, nor the voice that echoes it. And he who is versed in the science of numbers can tell of the regions of weight and measure, but he cannot conduct you thither. For the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man, and even as each one of you stands alone in God's knowledge, so you must each one of you be alone in his knowledge of God and in his understanding of the earth. One more. Two more. I'll just keep. I'm going to read two more short ones from the same prophet. And a youth said, speak to us of friendship. And he answered, saying, your friend is your needs answered. He is your field which you sow with love and reap with thanksgiving. And he is your board and your fireside, for you come to him with your hunger, and you seek him for peace. When your friend speaks his mind, you fear not the nay in your own mind, nor do you withhold the a. And when he is silent, your heart ceases not to listen to his heart. For without words, in friendship, all thoughts, all desires, all expectations are born and shared with joy that is unacclaimed. When you part from your friend, you grieve not, for that which you love most in him may be clearer in his absence, as the mountain to the climber is clearer from the plain. And let there be no purpose in friendship save the deepening of the spirit. For love that seeks aught but the disclosure of its own mystery is not love, but a net cast forth, and only the unproofable, and only the unprofitable is caught. And let your best be for your friend. If he must know the ebb of your tide, let him know its flood also. For what is your friend that you should seek him with hours to kill? Seek him always with hours to live. For it is his to fill your need, but not your emptiness. And in the sweetness of friendship, let there be laughter and sharing of pleasures. For in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning and is refreshed. And then a scholar said, "Speak of talking." And he answered, saying, "You talk when you cease to be at peace with your thoughts. And when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart, you live in your lips, and sound is a diversion and a pastime. And in much of your talking, thinking is half murdered, for thought is a bird of space that in a cage of words may indeed unfold its wings but cannot fly. There are those among you who seek the talkative through fear of being alone. The silence of aloneness reveals to their eyes their naked selves, and they would escape. And there are those who talk, and without knowledge or forethought reveal a truth which they themselves do not understand. And there are those who have the truth within them, but they tell it not in words. In the bosom of such as these, the Spirit dwells in rhythmic silence. When you meet your friend on the roadside or in the marketplace, let the Spirit in you move your lips and direct your tongue. Let the voice within your voice speak to the ear of his ear, for his soul will keep the truth of your heart as you taste of the wine is remembered. When the color is forgotten and the vessel is no more. I think I'm going to close the show on that. I appreciate everybody listening. It's really cool to see the show grow month by month. I welcome your feedback. You can send me a message, fitnessandconsciousness@gmail.com. I'm always working on, how to make the show better. I try to bring some awesome guests. I'm super thrilled with my guests, ones that are coming up, and all the past guests. It really blows my mind to look back at who's been on the show. And I hope you enjoy when I just come on by myself and have a few things to talk about. If you would like to be a guest on the show, send me a message. Again, fitnessandconsciousness@gmail.com. The show is on YouTube, Fitness and Consciousness YouTube channel. You can find me on Instagram at Hadley Fitness, HADLEY Fitness, FITNESS. And there's links to the show in my bio. And there's the Fitness and Consciousness Facebook page. And if you want to get a hold of me for training, I do in-person training, but also online. So I can do it from, if you can hear this show, you can train with me. I use Zoom. It's kind of like Skype if you're not familiar with it, or we could even use Skype, but I use Zoom mostly. And so I can assess your technique for like kettlebell training is my specialty, but you can do body weight, can do a bunch of different stuff. So you can send me a message and we'll see if I'm a good fit as a trainer. I'm certified by Strong First as a kettlebell instructor. I do a lot of different training, worked with a lot of different people that have a lot of different goals. So you can send me a message, see if we're a good fit. And thanks again for tuning in. And I will leave it at that. Have a good time and seek meaning.